करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
We begin with the poem Abu Ben Adam.
The poem. Abu Ben Adam, may his tribe increase, awoke one night from a deep dream of peace and saw within the moonlight in his room, making rich and like a lily in bloom, an angel writing in a book of gold. Exceeding peace had made Ben Adam bold, and to the presence in the room he said, "What writest thou?" The vision raised its head, and with a look made of old sweet accord answered, "The names of those who love the Lord." "And is mine one?" said Abu. "Nay, not so," replied the angel. Abu spoke more low, but cheerily still, and said, "I pray thee then, write me as one that loves his fellow man." The angel wrote and vanished. The next night it came again with a great awakening light and showed the names whom love of God had blessed. And lo, Ben Adam's name led all the rest. James Henry Leigh Hunt.
This poem by James Henry Leigh Hunt is a very simple narrative, yet a very, very deep thought from point of view of Vedanta. This poet is probably not, he is of course a great poet, maybe not as well known as others, but he is well known for promoting other great poets like Keats, Shelley, and other great poets of his time. So this is talking about Abu Ben Adam. Abu Ben Adam is the anglicized version of Ibrahim bin Adem, a Sufi saint who probably lived in Syria or in the Arabic land. And records about him are there in Urdu poetries also. And that is the inspiration for this poem. So it is talking about him only. So the narration is very simple. Abu Ben Adam is sleeping and he is very peacefully sleeping. One day in that night he encounters an angel, and that angel is writing the names of those who love the Lord in a book of gold. So Abu Ben Adam had no fear. He was asking that angel this question as to, what are you writing? So the angel said that it was writing the names of people who loved God. So he was curious and he asked if his name was there in that list. The angel replied in the negative that his name was not there. Abu Ben Adam was not worried. Cheerily he said only one thing, that please write my name as one who loves his fellow beings. The angel obliged and wrote his name and left. The next night the angel came again with a great awakening light, and then the angel had the names of those whose God's love had blessed. That means it had a list of names who God had loved. The first list was about who loved God. The second list was about who God loved. And in that list, Ben Adam's name was in the top of the list. So this simple poem conveys a very core point with reference to bhakti. See, these three poems which are clubbed together are centered around bhakti. last week we studied the olive tree, and now the Abuban Adam, and the next poem is Casabianca. All three are talking about various facets of bhakti only. What is bhakti? Bhakti and love are one and the same. Bhakti is the term that we use when the emotion is directed towards a higher object, higher being. So devotion or bhakti is when we say that you are devoted to parents or guru or God. When it is about equal or lower beings or lower objects, you say love. You love your wife, children, friends, pet dog, and love your even car, furniture, whatever it is. So there you use the term love. Love and bhakti are one and the same. It is a sense of emotion, of identification. In Indian languages, we do have various terms for describing various aspects of love also. Mother's love to child, vatsalyam, or love between lovers is prema. Then you have maitri bhava, which is friendly. So like this, all are emotion of love only. According to the person, according to the situation, the name changes. When the same is directed towards the supreme, it is called as bhakti in the purest form. In the 12th chapter is titled Bhakti Yoga in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita has various chapters dedicated to various aspects of our spiritual path. And 12th chapter is Bhakti Yoga. It is very nicely placed after the 11th chapter where the Lord shows his cosmic form. Once you are aware of that supreme self in its magnificent glory, automatically your head bows down in devotion. And so Arjuna is asking about worship, and the whole of 12th chapter is a very beautiful answer towards Arjuna's question. Towards the end of the chapter, in the last 8 verses, Lord Krishna gives 35 qualities of a bhakta. And those qualities are extremely inspiring, at the same time frightening. Frightening in the sense, when will we get into those qualities? When will we practice those qualities is a thought that may come to any one of us. But not to worry. These can be taken as at our level, just to take inspiration from one or two qualities and start practicing them. All are interconnected and interrelated, and you will find that all other qualities also coming up to you. In that set of qualities, what is given as the first quality is Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. So, in those 35 qualities, we don't find any of the qualities which is normally attributed to a bhakta from our point of view. We see a bhakta as a person who is performing regularly rituals towards God, who may have this external vesha about him, like having a ash on his forehead and visiting temple or chanting Lord's name, Vishnu Sahasranam or various other texts, anything for that matter. These are the things that we see, that always he is muttering prayers or always he is doing puja in his puja room. These are various attributes that we can relate to a bhakta, a devotee. And none of these qualities are given in these 35 qualities. That is very interesting. And probably the converse is also true here, applicable in the sense, none of the qualities given there is easily recognizable in any one of us. So, what is the quality that he is talking about, and what is the type of bhakta that he is talking about? Is a bhakti in the highest and purest form. And there he gives the first quality as Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam means no hatred towards any being. Essentially, you can say love for all beings, which is correct also, but he puts it in the negative, saying that no hatred for any being. It is said that the strength of the chain is its weakest link. So it really does not matter also how much people, how many beings that you love, but that one person, one community, one religion, one species or any one creature also where you have that hatred, if you have that hatred, that determines the quality of your bhakti. So the chain is as strong as its weakest link only. So a person's bhakti is as strong as his this particular emotion that he has for that particular person or being only. So he has put it as Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam, that means a unconditional love for all beings, no hatred towards any being. And to clarify this further, that it is not a neutral position also, next quality he says Maitra. Maitra means a very friendly attitude. So he's not a statue as well. Wherever he opens up his heart and looks, there is a gush of emotion flowing towards that being, and that is unconditional love. So love is essentially unconditional. Love cannot have boundary. We put a boundary to that love by our own circles of identification, be it family, be it friends, be it religion, be it caste, be it community. We put a boundary. Otherwise, by itself, it is pervasive everywhere. It is love that sustains that universe. And love is the Swarupa of God. Upanishad says that. Tasya priyameva shirah. Tasya priyameva shirah says Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad says the Ananda Swarupa, the ultimate God, Ishvara, his head is love. So therefore love and God are not different from each other. And this, if a person is able to feel, he is truly a devotee. Does that mean that he should not do his rituals or not go to temple or not have a form or no? All those things are definitely required. All those things are required for you to ultimately reach this state of a bhakta only. So what is essential in this bhakti is that awareness. What is this awareness that we are talking about? Maybe not this Sunday, next 2 Sundays after this, Kaivalya Upanishad is going to talk about this awareness. In talking about the pure awareness of the self, and the way to get that awareness is to see yourself in all beings and all beings in you. This is a very famous statement given in Gita also, given in Upanishads also. In Ishavasi also we studied this. This will come up again and again and again. There is no other path except for universe, except for salvation, to universally identify yourself with all beings. That in essence is bhakti. So it really does not matter how great our show of devotion is, but what really matters is your internal relationship with God, which probably He only will know, and that is what really counts. That is why in this poem, we'll just go through this poem. Abu Ben Adam, may his tribe increase, awoke one night from a deep dream of peace. May his tribe increase means may there be more people like Abu Ben Adam. He is like a great role model for us. He is a great person. So may there be more such person in the world is the prayer of the poet here. Awoke one night from a deep dream of peace. These words indicate that this person is generally a very peaceful person. One of the tests is that how peacefully a person sleeps. And here he very clearly indicates that from a deep dream of peace. That means he is having a very, very peaceful sleep. He awoke one night. Of course, you can take it, this is like a picturization of a dramatizing what is happening, okay. So you have to get to the message with this dramatization. You can take it as he is seeing somebody in the dream or he is actually encountering an angel. That is a matter of detail. It really does not matter. But the fact is that he is a peaceful person having a peaceful sleep, and one day he awoke from it and saw within the moonlight in his room, making it rich and like a lily in bloom. So how the lily blooms in the night with a, that's a very pleasant sight like that. Like that, the moonlight in his room, he saw as he woke up that night. And what did he see? He saw an angel writing in a book of gold. Exceeding peace had made Ben-Adam bold. See, some of the commentators have extended this part of the poem for us to think about. It is just a thought. See, the poetry and other things is given, and each one is having that imagination to derive messages from it. It may not be the core or the important message, but other messages also can be derived. He says, an angel writing in the book of gold. So, an angel has been commissioned by whom we do not know, but it is writing in the book of gold. And what is the angel writing? Angel is writing, and to the presence in the room he said, what writest thou? The vision raised its head, and with look made of all sweet accord answered, the names of those who love the Lord. So those people who love the Lord, that list is being collected and written in that book of gold by this angel. So obviously, whoever has initiated this type of a list, how can they come to know about the person's love for God? So they will go by what they consider as the show of love for God. So maybe seeing the external traits and characteristics of a person, whatever he is doing, and particularly with reference to the show of love for God, and that is indicated by the words here, book of gold. An angel writing in a book of gold. This is a commentary that I read. Maybe it's a thought, that's all. So it is talking about those persons who profess love for God, and their names are there in this book of gold. And exceeding peace had made Ben-Adam bold. Exceeding peace means he is already a very peaceful person, and the presence in the room is an angel, which is supposed to be suppose like a sattvic person type of a character. So there is exceeding peace, and in that setup, he has no fear to ask this question. He is asking out of curiosity, what writest thou? What are you writing? And the angel, with all harmonious look, answered, the names of those who love the Lord. So obviously, like any person, he is curious to know whether his name is there. And is mine one? Said Abu. So the angel said, nay, not so, replied the angel. Abu spoke more low. So immediately when you get an answer like this, you may be sort of I am saying disheartened, but immediately the next sentence says, but cheerily still, and said, and this is what is important, it is given in italics by Swamiji, I pray thee then, write me as one that loves his fellow man. So he says, please write my name as somebody who loves his fellow beings, fellow men. The angel obliged. The angel wrote and vanished. The next night it came again with a great awakening light. The angel wrote and vanished, and the next night it came again with a great awakening light and showed the names of whom love of God has blessed, and lo, Ben-Adam's name led all the rest. Okay. So what really matters is, or whose consent, or whose recognition matters. You claiming that you are the devotee of God, does it have more weightage, or God claims that you are the best, does that have a great impact? Like in a relative sense, you can say that I know the Prime Minister, but the question is, does the Prime Minister also knows you? Then only it has a value, right? In terms of whatever, if you want to get some things done, or you want to contact him or something like that. So all of us, most of us in the world claim devotion towards God. if you take statistics, 99 or more, 99.9 recurring will be people who believe in God and who are devotees of God. And all of them are accepted as the devotees of God. That is why in the list that is being prepared by the angel, Abu Ben Adam's name is not there. But in the list that God has, probably this list is approved by God, isn't it? Because God's love has blessed means other thing can be commissioned by any other person also. But this list which God's love has blessed, those type of people, this must be obviously approved by the God himself. Okay. And in that he says, Ben Adam's name led all the rest. That means he is in the top. That means what? Others are also accepted. It is not that God does not have any, what to say, he does not reject anybody. He does not reject anybody. Okay, his grace is there for all. But who is there in the top of the list? The top of the list, Ben Adam's name is there. Now, there may be certain questions that can come here. Is there really partiality in God? Does he show love towards one person much more than the other? Is his grace not universal? Does he not bless everybody equally? All that is correct. In fact, we have to turn to Bhagavad Gita for an answer in this. Because the portion that we quoted in the beginning, which is the 12th chapter Bhagavad Gita, and in the last portion of that, where he talks about the 35 qualities of Bhakta, in majority of those verses, he gives a chorus saying that Yo me Bhakta Same Priya, Yo me Bhakta Same Priya. That means that Bhakta is dear to me, that Bhakta is dear to me, that Bhakta is very close to me. Like that, he keeps on repeating verse after verse. Totally 8 verses are there, maybe 6 out of 8 verses, he is saying only that. And go back to the beginning of the Shatakam of Bhakti in 7th chapter, there he says, Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritinarjuna. They are sukritinaha, they are people of good deeds, and such people, they turn towards me. They are sukritinaha, they are good people, he says. 4 types of people. Vis-a-vis the dushkritinaha whom he had described earlier. Those who don't have thought of God at all, compared to them, these are very good people who turn towards me. And he gives the 4 types of devotees there. Artho, Jignasu, Artharthi, Jnani cha Bharatarshava. Artha, Jignasu, Artharthi and Jnani. The first 3, Artha, Jignasu and Artharthi are devotees of God, but with a utilitarian approach they do that worship. That means they relate to God with a purpose in mind. Whatever they want. And I am not saying it's right or wrong. Each person, according to their level, they are relating to God. They may go to temple for certain material gains, or to get some emotional solace, or for some intellectual curiosity. They may want to relate to God. Whatever be the reason. All these are there. Couple of verses later, Krishna says, Udara sarvaye vaite. Udara means they are all good, nice, broad-minded people. So whether you accept them as devotees or not, God has accepted them as devotees. He says, Udaraha sarvaye vaite. They are all nice people, they are all broad-minded people. Why? Even at the time of distress or anything, they are turning towards me. They are not bereft of my thought. They are always turning towards me for whatever reason. So all are Udara sarvaye vaite. But then Jnani to Atmeva Mimata. But Jnani is Jnani. Jnani is me. I am Jnani. We are so much bound to each other that we are one. So therefore, obviously there is a hierarchy there also. Now how does it work? It all depends on what basis that you keep your relationship with God. See, he is there like sun's grace is there for everybody to enjoy that sunlight, and it is there for everyone to make use of. But if you are not able to relate to sun to that extent, you don't get the blessings of the sun as it were. You put a thin covering over you, then to that extent you are stopping the sunlight. If you put a thick covering over you, then you are preventing the sunlight. A person who has opened up everything and he has dedicated himself only to sun, let us say, he gets all the blessings of the sun. So that is the relationship which is again corroborated in the 4th chapter of Gita also. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tataiva bhajamyaham. However, men who they approach me, I satisfy them according to their needs. So a person who is seeking wealth, I satisfy them with that. A person who is seeking emotional solace, I have to satisfy with them that. A person who is seeking me, what will I do? I'll give myself only. So in that sense, the love of God is blessing those who value God the most in that sense. So therefore, it is very clear that God is neutral, God is a Sakshi of everything, His grace is available for all, but you are able to derive His grace according to your level, your status, your relationship. That is one aspect that we have to understand here. Second thing is, suppose if you literally take this poem and say that does God really love people? Is there a list like this and all? It is all to be understood that, as we said in the beginning, God is a homogeneous, conscious principle. So, that conscious principle, if anybody is able to relate to that, it is reciprocating in the same way. Now, this conscious principle which is pulsating in each and every being of this universe, if you are able to identify with that, then what you profess is universal love. So when that is there, no special exclusive love or no special exclusive ritual which professes love for God is required. This itself is essentially the expression of bhakti. So highest form of bhakti is to have that awareness of that supreme self pulsating everywhere, and that feeling that gushes out of you towards that which has no boundaries is essentially bhakti. But the question will arise, can that come for a person who has no concept of God at all? We really do not know. When we talk about certain fine human beings who are atheists, we understand that they are atheists from the point of view of how the maybe Christianity or Islam defines as atheist, which is not believing in a particular God which is revealed there. That is not the case. A person who believes, let us say, genuinely in humanity, a person who is able to show genuine love towards his fellow beings irrespective of any boundaries, he is actually, why would he do that? Unless otherwise his awareness is awakened to that extent. So, God need not be now picturized as only a deity or a murti or a particular male god or anything like that, though all of it essentially points out to that infinite entity only. If a person is able to have that awareness of the providence, of that supreme consciousness, how and where he gets it, we do not know. We may attribute it to his past karma, we may attribute it to his past sadhana, we really do not know. But if a person is able to get into that state, then he is showing this supreme bhakti, there is no doubt about it at all. Irrespective of, at that stage, all the rituals, puja, everything he has transcended. But from a very practical point of view and at the level that we are, will such a feeling come, or can we just work towards such a feeling of humanity without or consciously avoiding the thought of self or God? Probably it is not possible. See, the whole knowledge of Vedanta is only exposing us to this awareness. You need not possess a personal God, you need not have any murti or anything like that, but at least you will be aware of yourself and yourself being fed by that providence all the time. That is always there, that nobody can deny. So that benevolence which is there for us to enjoy, if we become more and more acutely aware of that, we will be aware of, we do not know, it will only culminate in possessing that providence there. So that once it comes, then you will find that that particular feeling permeates universally. That type of a feeling gushes out of that person naturally. We'll see a few poems later about daffodils. That's what happens to the poet there. That once he sees daffodils, his feeling completely is different. That type of gushing out of a feeling will come. So, if a person is able to have this type of feeling, then he is termed as a bhakta. And this is the essential message of Abu Ben. We will go through Swamiji's commentary here.
In this magnificent poem, Leigh Hunt depicts the true aspect of devotion to God, bhakti. Abu Ben Adam, a simple soul, professes no love for God. He only claims that he loves his fellow men. Abu dreamt of an angel writing the names of those who love God. He asked the angel if his name was one of them. The angel replied that it was not so. Abu then requested that his name be written as one who loves his fellow men. The angel wrote and vanished. The next night it returned with the list of names whom God loved. And in that list, Abu Ben Adam's name was foremost. Devotion to God is therefore directly related to one's love for fellow beings. God resides in the core of every being. He is the homogeneous conscious principle manifesting in the heterogeneous variety of beings. To recognize and worship Him in His universal expression is true devotion.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.